Welcome, everyone. Today's session is called the pre-sales pathway. So we are going to be talking about your fit in the world of solutions. So this session is really going to dive into a lot of different elements of pre-sales. And what exactly we are going to dive into is right here on our agenda. So we are going to talk about what is pre-sales. So what is this role? What is this profession? Then we're also going to talk about what skills are needed for this role. I know a lot of people in this space are career changers looking to make a step in a direction that will bring fulfillment into their careers. So ultimately, you do want to make sure this is a good fit for you. We're also going to talk about why is this an interesting role and talk a little bit about our program. We are members of PreSales Academy here, so we would be amiss if we didn't talk about our program. But in addition, you all will have the opportunity to meet a recent graduate of PreSales Academy, Andy Schartzer's joining with us later today to talk about his transition into a solution consultant role. So I'm super excited for y'all to meet him. And then we are going to open it up for Q&A at the end of today. So let's do some introductions of who is in the space and also who's part of our team. So I am going to hand it over to Liz to introduce herself first.
Sure. Thank you so much, Nina. And thank you to everyone who is joining. It's so great to have you here with us. So my name's Liz Anderson. I'm actually the Director of Learning here at PreSales Collective, which includes PreSales Academy, which you are here for to learn a little bit more about. My role is basically everything learning, enablement, courses, anything to learn either about becoming coming into pre-sales, or for those folks who are already in there to learn how to do the job better. So we have a variety of different courses. I've been here for over a year now and absolutely love it. And before here, I was actually in the field in this space. So I have done everything from being in solutions engineering roles where I've been doing the demoing and solutioning, all the way to leading very successful teams in doing that same thing. So super excited to have you here, and I'm going to pass it back over to Nina.
Yeah. So before I introduce myself, I do want to do a quick highlight of other people on our team who really interact with our PreSales Academy program. So I do have Chris Mayberry here on the slide. He is our general manager for PreSales Collective. So he oversees all of our operations within our PreSales Collective community, but also within our enablement programs that includes PreSales Academy. So he's very involved, loves to see new graduates come into the program and find their space in pre-sales. We also have Winnie Delson. She is our lead training program manager. So she is going to be that main point person during the program who will be help leading you through the experience. She also does a lot of the background of curriculum development for PreSales Academy. Winnie's been with us for over 2 years now, and she's just been an asset to this team. Before this, she worked in higher education doing a lot of curriculum development and program planning, and I love that she gets to leverage that experience with adult learners in PreSales Academy. But I would be amiss if I didn't introduce myself as well. My name is Nina Berger. I am the Senior Career Services Manager here at PreSales Academy. So my role really oversees the front and back end of our students' experience. So ultimately, I am here to make sure that students are a good fit for the Academy with our admissions process, but also make sure that students are having a successful placements process once they have graduated and started their job search process. So very much the bookends of the experience. Before coming to PreSales Academy, I also came from a background in higher education, leading learning communities. And it's really exciting to be in a space where, hey, I can now coach adult learners and career changers in their shift into pre-sales. So that is our main team here. We are a compact but mighty team, and we've been able to support so many students making the transition into pre-sales, which kind of leads me into my next slide. This slide is kind of a teaser of what is the PreSales Academy experience. It's an experience where you are learning a lot about the pre-sales profession, gaining the necessary skill refinement and competencies for this role, but then also launching yourself into this profession, into a solutions-oriented role. So this is a quick snapshot of some of our recent graduates who have gone through PreSales Academy. I would say that when we're looking for students for PreSales Academy, students come into our program from a wide variety of backgrounds. So if you're like, Nina, I'm a little bit worried, I don't have sales experience or technical experience, that is perfectly fine. Our students come from a variety of sources and they all bring in great skills that could be highly coveted and transferable for pre-sales. So just a quick kind of example. So Cassie Terra on this slide, she's a sales engineer at Beeline. Her background is in education. So she doesn't have any sales experience or technical experience, but she had strong connections to the role through presentation skills and relationship building, which really allowed her to be successful in her search process. Evan, on the other hand, came from a bit of a BDR background before he landed at ServiceNow recently. So he has a bit of sales experience, but he needed some more refinement in pre-sales before making the shift into where he is now at ServiceNow. And then Camilla on this slide had a strong background in technology. So she used to do more implementation on the back end, strong technical skills, and she needed more skills in regards to the sales process. So that is what brought her to PreSales Academy. So ultimately, this slide is just to show y'all that our students come from a variety of places and they're able to come into this program, get some really good reskilling, and then launch themselves into a career they're really passionate about. Because at the end of the day, we're really here for your career change, not just that initial next role after PreSales Academy. But I know I've done enough teasing. Let's just dive into the real reason why you are here, which is to learn more about pre-sales, because I get it. Some people are like, what is this role? What is this profession? And why haven't I heard about this before? And that's something I hear all the time. So when I'm talking about what is pre-sales, ultimately, pre-sales is a role that exists in business to business technology sales. So when one business is selling their piece of technology to another business, they need people in the sales process to push forward the sale and make sure everything goes smooth fully. One way I really like to think about the pre-sales role or the sales engineer role or the solutions consultant role, there's a lot of titles and I'll talk about that, is I like to see it through the other roles that exist in tech sales, because sometimes those roles are a little bit more familiar to people. And so that's a good way to see how this role exists and functions within the space. So a really common role in technical sales is the sales development rep. So this is the person who is finding the opportunity. They're finding the customers and they are opening the deal. They are doing a lot of account research. They are cold calling customers, bringing them in and seeing, hey, are you ultimately going to be a good fit for this product? You want to buy this product? And they do a lot of that outsourcing. So if you know that person, if you can think of the sales process as someone who's kind of finding people to buy the product, that is your sales development rep. The next common role in technical sales is your account executive. So the account executive really manages the whole sales opportunity after the customer has been qualified to come into the sales process. So they are ultimately the person who's really thinking about account strategy. They are the one who is managing the relationship with the customer, leading them through the process. And ultimately, they're going to be the closer of the deal. They are going to be the one who's negotiating contracts and closing the deal and landing that sale at the end of the day. We like to also say that the account executive gets that business win because they are really that person who talks about the business side of what they are selling, versus our favorite role in this space, which is our solutions consultant role or that pre-sales role. So this is the person who will come in at the middle of the sales process and they will interact with the customer to really show that the product that the customer is exploring is going to provide a good solution for the challenges that the customer is facing. So they are going to be presenting the product to the customer. They are going to be working with them, learning more about the customer's details and uncovering their business problems. And they are ultimately kind of finding a solution with technology. So they are the product expert in the sales process. Let's just think about all these roles, though, in a real life example. So let's say a company like let me think of an example. Let's say you are Google and Google doesn't have Google Meet right now. They're looking to buy a video conferencing platform. So a company like Google will connect with the sales team at Zoom, which is where we all are right now, to purchase their video conferencing platform. The SDR will kind of qualify, see, hey, is Google a good fit for Zoom? Do they have kind of like a good, are we kind of in line with what they're looking for? And then once they've qualified, they'll be connected with the account executive. And then the account executive will be like, oh, perfect. Google is ready to see the product, learn more, dive deeper. Let me bring in that pre-sales person or that solutions consultant to help showcase the product and talk about that technical aspect of the sales process. So that's a quick example with business to business technology, which is where you will mostly see this role exist. But I know I talked a bit about different titles. A lot of people, when they're exploring pre-sales, one thing that is very common is the multitude of titles for this role. That is mainly just because different companies have different kind of terminologies and visions when they see what does this role really do and serve their company. So very common titles can include sales engineer or solution consultant or sales consultant or pre-sales consultant. Overall, all these roles are really speaking to that middle of the sales process person who's coming in and showing the product. But if you are exploring these roles, what I do recommend is also looking at the position description just to make sure it is a pre-sales role. So I did mention the details of presenting the product, uncovering solutions, but what else does a solutions consultant do, just so you have that frame of mind as you're exploring this profession? Well, I already talked about product demonstrations. Ultimately, this role does a lot of product demonstrations because you are showing how your product can solve prospects' challenges. So during these stages, you do need to configure the software and tailor it to your audience. It does require you to present to a room to show that energy. But people find that aspect of this role to be really energizing because you never know who your audience is going to be, and you're going to have to be that one to set the tone of the room and engage with others. Other things you will do in the pre-sales role is lead discovery meetings. So a discovery meeting typically occurs before you go into a product demonstration. It's a time for you to build rapport with your customer, as well as learn about what their pain points are and really leverage active listening so that you can leverage that information to build into a presentation in the future. Other things you'll encompass in this role is you'll encounter answering technical and business questions, because since you are the product and solution expert, you are going to have to answer a lot of questions on how does your product function? How does it exist in the technology space? And this is the aspect of the role that brings a lot of challenge and uniqueness, because every customer is going to have different questions, and it does require you to maybe think creatively and see, hey, are there creative ways for us to solve this issue or answer this question you bring up if this is something we haven't experienced before. You also will be building relationships in this role. The pre-sales role does not exist in a vacuum. You have to collaborate with other people on your sales team. You also have to collaborate and connect with your prospects and customers. But what's also fun about this role is you get to build relationships with internal partners at your company, which are beyond the sales team, like product managers or marketing or software developers. So it really gives you an opportunity to feel like, hey, I'm not in my own little silo doing my work. I get to consult and work with so many different people, which is really exciting if you're a person who likes to collaborate a lot. And last but not least, this role also deals with a lot of providing feedback. Since you get to sit so close to the product and get to learn so much about what customers are looking for in the product, you really get to be in this space where you gain really precious insight on the needs of your customer and kind of what's the market looking for, which is a really big asset to your company when you're thinking about how you are continually advancing your product and kind of bringing in more revenue for the growth of whatever company you're working for. So if you're ever kind of exploring the pre-sale space and you want to make sure that, hey, this role with a pre-sales related title is actually a pre-sales role. These are the things that I'm always looking for in a position, because this is what we consider to be the core elements of what makes a role in pre-sales. But just as a reminder, what doesn't make a role a pre-sales role, or what's not required for this role? So ultimately, what you're not going to see in this role is you're usually not going to see cold calling. You also won't see a lot of negotiating, because that exists more in the account executive role. And usually you're not going to see a lot of coding or building of the product like a software engineer. Instead, what you're going to see in this role is you're existing in the middle of the sales process. Sometimes you do need to leverage technical skills depending on what type of product you're working with, but that does look very different at each company that you might be exploring. Some companies, you might need to leverage a little bit of coding to set up your demo environment and configure it, and maybe that is a technical skill, but you're usually not seeing so much coding in the sense of I'm building the product, because that's usually typically another team at a company. So this is what actually also makes the role rather enticing is, I get to exist in sales, but I don't need to do cold calling and negotiating. I get to exist in tech, but I don't need to be super duper technical in building out a product. So before I move on into what skills are needed for pre-sales that kind of build off of all the things that you really see in the role, I do want to take a pause. If there's any questions in the space, I'm going to take a quick look into my Q&A. I don't see anything right now, so I'm going to continue on. But as a general reminder, always feel free to drop your questions into the Q&A. We will take some breaks to answer questions during the session as well as at the end. So let's get it moving on again. So what skills are ultimately needed to be successful in pre-sales? So we've seen a lot of career changers coming into PreSales Academy from a variety of backgrounds. You could think back to that earlier slide I showed you, and why all those students were a good fit for PreSales Academy and pre-sales is because they had really great foundational skills that they could leverage into the role. And so as you're exploring this space, I would really encourage you all to think, hey, do I have these 4 skills that I'm highlighting? And have I been able to exercise and refine them over the past years? So the first skill that I think is pivotal for pre-sales is communication. I know this is probably not a surprise to most people, but having strong verbal and written communication skills is so important for this role, because you are the presenter, you are conveying ideas to your customer, you are following up. So you need to be the one to engage others, be very persuasive, and bring presence into the room. I know the term communication can mean a lot of things. When I'm thinking about communication for pre-sales, I'm thinking of, hey, can someone present accurately to an audience? Do they have experience in presenting and training? Can they teach someone about a topic? That's what I've seen a lot in our students coming into the program, and the ability to present and teach is so important for pre-sales, because that is what you're doing with your product, and you need to do so in an engaging manner, because that's what's going to resonate with your audience and also create a lasting impact. So if you have experiences where you've had to engage with audiences and present and really deliver a message, think about if that was a time that energized you, because that could be a really cool example to connect back to this profession. The next skill that I think it's really important for pre-sales is technical curiosity. So I like to highlight this skill as not just curiosity, but technical curiosity, because overall, you are serving as a product expert. That requires you to learn technology at a deeper level. And so that requires you to be like, hey, I want to know how this works. And I want to really see, how does this product function? How can I dig in here, learn it from my own point of view, and then also teach someone else how to learn this. So within the role, you really do develop a deep understanding of your company's products and their services. And so if you have that thirst to learn new things and ramp up quickly, it's going to really connect well in this profession, because not only are you learning a product that exists at a company, but every company is always evolving with their product. So that does require you to be like very curious about updates that are happening with the product. And really, that curiosity is what's going to drive you and become a better solutions consultant. Because if you have that learning mindset, it really will allow you to want to get more information, always be on the top of what's happening, and also push yourself further. The next skill that I think is super important for pre-sales, and I feel like I say every skill is important, but they all are. These are my top four, is problem solving. So you are interacting with multiple customers. So you will have to navigate through unique challenges set by each customer. Every customer is going to have a different pain point, and that will require you to tailor how you're showing your product or your solution to that audience. So maybe a customer is looking for a feature that you currently don't have. Or is there a workaround in your current product that you can present to them? Or is there something coming down the line that you know of that could be enticing to them? Leveraging skills like adaptivity and creative thinking are so key for problem solving in the pre-sale space, because those who can think outside of the box can potentially open the door for more customers to be interested and purchase your product. So if you're thinking about experiences in your past where you've had to problem solve and like mess around with things, that those can be really interesting examples of skills that you can leverage into the pre-sale space. For example, I've had some students who will talk about times where they had to deal with a difficult customer, and there was no clear answer in sight, and how they had to go back, be creative with how they treated the customer, and create a new plan going forward. Examples like that could be really good indicators of that you have strong problem solving skills. And then last but not least, I think collaboration is an amazing skill and so needed for pre-sales, because like I mentioned before in the kind of position description requirements, you have to build relationships with customers, your sales team, and internal partners. So you have to work seamlessly with all these people for a common goal. And so overall, if you're a person who likes to bounce back and forth with people, bring other people into the process to share their opinions, but also keep everyone in the loop, kind of like a project manager, that's how you can kind of bring that into the pre-sales space. I've seen a lot of people with project management skills being able to leverage that into pre-sales, or even ones who've had to deal with kind of multiple internal stakeholders for an assignment. Those are some really good examples of things that you can bring in to really showcase that, hey, you know, I've done collaboration in the past, I can do in the future in this pre-sales role. So those are my top four skills I think are so needed for pre-sales. Obviously, there's more, but those are the four I would love everyone to just think about and find examples of times they exercised it, because those will be really good things to showcase your foundational connection to pre-sales. But to continue on with our journey, obviously we talked about what is pre-sales, what skills are needed. Now, these next slides really just talk about why pre-sales. There's a lot of different reasons why people explore the pre-sales profession. Maybe they want more challenge in their role. Maybe they want to work in the field of technology. Overall, we've connected with a lot of people who've made the shift into pre-sales. And also being part of pre-sales collective community, we've talked to dozens of professionals who love this profession, and they cannot stop talking about how they wish they found this job earlier in their career. So these are some quick reasons why you might love pre-sales in the future. So I like to say that pre-sales really is a dynamic profession. You exist in the tech space, so there's so many different companies and products you get to interact with. But one thing that really stands out to me is it's a dynamic environment. You get to work where professionals engage with cutting edge technologies and innovative solutions. So you're always exposing yourself to new things. And with those new things, you get a variety of challenges with your role, which I feel like I kind of brought up a bit when we were talking about the skills needed for pre-sales. But if you're a person who's like, I want a different interaction with everyone, I want unique challenges, I want to make very tailored solutions, then this could be a really cool profession for you because there is a variety of challenges when you're going into pre-sales, and it'll look different for every company and every product. What's also fun about this role is you are existing in the space where you really make impactful contributions to your team and also your company. So your role plays a pivotal point in the customer experience when they're looking to buy a product. You really have a lot of influence in how a customer determines if they want to purchase a product. And that really is exciting because you're contributing to the revenue growth of a company. And when you are helping get that technical win that leads to a potential business win and new contract for a company, it could be exciting to be like, hey, my work has direct impact on how our company continues to grow and also serve others. In addition, what I like about this profession, maybe the most, is just the opportunity for career growth. I like to say that the skills you're learning in PreSales Academy and also in the pre-sales profession are highly transferable skills. They're also skills that are highly valued. So you get to really transfer those skills and leverage them into a range of roles and pathways. You don't always need to be in a role where you are a solutions consultant. You can leverage these skills into different pathways to drive yourself forward and explore different avenues of technical sales in the future. In addition, there's also high earning potential in pre-sales. I would be amiss if I didn't highlight this. But overall, what we've seen in the profession is there is usually a high starting salary just because you're a role that's a little bit more complex. And since it's a more complex role, they want to make sure this role is adequately compensated. So what we're seeing right now amongst our graduates is usually our students are landing roles around 118K on target earnings or more, which is really exciting, especially since I've seen a lot of students being able to increase their income and feel more sustainable in their future. But what's also nice about the profession is just that high earning potential overall, because if you want to stay within your role, you could see that growth in your variable pay as you move up in a role, but also you can kind of see that growth as you're switching to different companies and products that might be more complex, where you can leverage the skills you've refined over the past year. So I think that's also a really exciting aspect of why pre-sales is people don't feel like they're hitting a ceiling after a certain amount of time, especially with their compensation. But the other reason why a lot of people love pre-sales really is also the companies that hire sales engineers. You get to work with so many cool companies and products. These are just a quick snapshot of some of the companies that our students have landed with in the past. And even today, our students are exploring more and more companies and getting to work with some really cool cutting edge products. So that is my big why. I'm going to hand it over to Liz to talk about PreSales Academy, but let me see if there's any questions in the chats. I don't see any questions right now, but as a reminder, you could always feel free to drop a question in our Q&A, and I'm going to hand over to Liz.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Nina. Now, I'm super excited to talk to you all about how PreSales Academy can help you get the role, because as someone who has been in the field for well over a decade, it is, to me, I used to say is the best job nobody's ever heard of, but obviously you've heard of it. So that's changing and that's wonderful. However, it also means it's not, it's not something that is super easy to get into if you don't know some of the basic foundational skills. So let's talk about what we do to help our graduates get hired and what the program is. Next slide, Nina. So really what this is we have a comprehensive program that it it's time intensive because we have 10 weeks, over 100 hours worth of content. We cover a variety of topics. We make sure that you get actual practice where you are putting the things that you're learning into practice. And let me tell you, it helps so much. And we also have thought out this program where we go through multiple different stages over the course of this 10 weeks to make sure that you're going to be successful coming out of here, knowing the skills that are foundational to pre-sales. So let's talk about what that curriculum is. So as you see here, these are, all of the core foundational skills necessary to be successful regardless of the industry that you're going to be going into. Now, of course, if you're going into a more technical field, there might be some technical skills you might need to pick up along the way or that you already have. But when it comes to pre-sales, things like understanding sales process, understanding value, understanding how to present, how to demo, how to do proper discovery, preparation, how to make sure that you're doing the proper technical validation. And also on the other side, it's just as important to help you prepare for how to get that right role. Where should you be looking? What are the tools and skills necessary? How do you interview properly for a pre-sales role? Because it's not just about like having the right check boxes on the resume, but it's also about how you show up, which is very important. So moving on, I talked a little bit about the stages that we go through. So as you can see here, there's 3 different sections of PSA. So the first part is going to be all around helping you get the basic information that you need. So this is all self-paced. You should expect about 8 to 10 hours per week of content that you need to go through, as well as homework exercises to make sure that you're prepared, getting all the information that you need. Again, assignments, reading, all that fun stuff. Then stage 2 is, I would say it's the fun part, but it's also the hard part. We actually meet about 3 times a week on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, typically, from 4 to 5:30 p.m. Pacific time. And this is where you're going to get that hands-on learning. You're going to do your role plays. You're going to have group activities. We're going to have discussion. And it's super important that folks show up live here because that's where you get all the wonderful information that is really, I mean, the difference between knowledge between the start of stage 2 and the end of stage 2 in that 4 weeks, it's truly, truly incredible. It's hard to envision how much growth happens in that 4-week time slot. And then of course, as I mentioned before, putting everything all together so that you can land the job. So we do have that last week where, it's online, you have office hours with your advisor at PSA where you are preparing to search for that job to make sure that you are successful. And I think that leads us to who we have involved. So as we think about PSA, this is designed from people who are in the industry. Folks like myself, Tom Banton, Rue Dickinson, Miriam Graff, all wonderful folks who are very well known in the industry. And there's many more people outside of who is on here who we're constantly thinking about how to update our content and design to make it, keep up with the ever-changing world of what pre-sales is, and tons of advisors as well. So this kind of goes into the network that we have. So you think when you're thinking about what makes you successful, we're thinking about the competencies that you're learning, which is a combination of your knowledge, the skill, and your attitude. It's always really important. And one thing we say is growth mindset is incredibly important here at PSA, because if you're not willing to put in the work and look for the opportunities to grow and get better, I'll just say it, you won't be successful. The folks who are the most successful are willing to put in the effort and sometimes see the most growth within the program. And then you pair that with kind of what our some of our secret sauce, I'd say, is the network and connections that you make along the way. Because we are a part of PreSales Collective, which is the largest pre-sales community in the world, and we have over 45,000 members. We have a lot of people who would love to see the environment grow and see new folks and faces come in and change kind of the future of pre-sales, which means they are there to help you be advisors, be coaches, kind of help you along the way. And many times it's because of these connections that people actually find their job. So that is the really cool part, is to be able to connect folks with people who will kind of change your life. I can't say that'll happen all the time, but it's 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 common enough that it's pretty cool to see. So I talked a little bit about these different roles here. So who is actually involved if you become if you get into the PSA program? So first of all, you're going to have your PSA advisor. So these are folks like Nina and Winnie, where they're going to help with your program support in the program. They're also going to be along with you through your job placement search and coach. You know, for instance, if you need to do a demo role play for that interview that you have, they're going to be right there with you, helping you and making sure that they give you feedback before you actually give it. So it's kind of, again, that secret sauce. And of course, we are here all the time being your lifelong cheerleader. We still are connected with many folks along all of, including the early cohorts, hearing what's going on, being in their corner, seeing them go through promotions, job changes. It's really exciting. And then you have your coach. As I mentioned before, we have wonderful volunteers who are part of the pre-sales network who've been doing this for 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 plus years. So your coach is going to help when you talk about role play. So they're going to help give you specific direction, what you're doing well, what you could do to improve. And really, these are the folks who are going to give you the steps along the way to help you with that really tactical advice. And then, of course, you also, if two is not enough, you get a third, a mentor. And this person is really going to help you with the advice, the guidance you need, figuring out maybe what industries you want to be a part of. Are there particular companies you want to go after? They're going to be a sounding board. And even we've seen folks get connected through other people, through their mentors with their network, because we know that you're starting with a small or non-existent network coming into here, which is why we want to pair you with folks who have an extensive network, who have been in the space for a while. And of course, this is a small a smattering of folks who have been instructors, advisors, coaches all throughout. So there's some incredible people here. I'm sure folks that you've probably even seen as thought leaders on LinkedIn. And even if you haven't, these folks are really incredible at their craft. And we get nothing but wonderful feedback from our previous grads on how folks are helping. And we're always looking for feedback on folks because we want to make sure that the folks that we basically have curated for you to be coaches and advisors are giving really great feedback and advice. So let's talk about the outcome. So in general, we're not just here to provide you like, hey, we're just going to be this boot camp and here's all the information. What we want to see for you at the end of the program is, one, we want you to land the solutions role that you want, again, whether it's in pre-sales or a solutions adjacent role, because there's a ton of transferable skills that you get as a part of this program. So we've seen people go into CSM roles or other sales roles or implementation roles or, PM roles, something along those lines where you are landing the role that you want. And ideally, it's not just about landing that role, it's about setting you up for long-term success, because this isn't just about one job, this is about your career, and a career that I hope that you will have for a very long time and love your job. At the end of the day, I will say, we can give you all the resources, but we can't do the work for you. You have to put in the work. So one thing I will say is we've seen it time and time again. The folks who are willing to put in the work, put the skills that, we give you into place, have that playbook, they are proven to get those jobs, even without direct pre-sales experience. And with that, Nina, I think I'm passing it back over to you.
Yes, you are. Well, I have one more slide before I introduce our guest speaker for this evening. But one thing just to keep in mind with our program is, since we're giving such a curated experience, we do want to make sure that anyone coming into the program is a good fit. What do we look for in our prospective students? I like to call it the 5 Cs. Ultimately, we're looking for commitment to making this change, strong communication skills, curiosity, coachability, so ability to take that feedback and run with it, as well as critical thinking skills. Honestly, a bunch of skills are the ones I highlighted earlier. And what I always recommend to students is, you're considering Pre-Sales Academy, I always recommend applying sooner than later. You do not need to make a decision on your enrollment until you've gone through the process. You've asked questions to our team, but this is our quick process for you. It's really straightforward of submitting your application. Once an application has been marked to move on, you'll schedule an admissions call with our team, and then we'll make a decision on your application and chat about enrollment steps. So very straightforward process, but ultimately we want to make sure everyone's a good fit, because this is a investment in your future, and we want to make sure you are a good fit for this profession. So I know y'all have been waiting for this. So I have an amazing graduate speaker for you tonight. Andy Schartzer is with us this evening, and he recently, a couple months ago, landed an associate solutions engineer role at Nintex. I'm going to let him do a more formal overview and background information of him, but I distinctly remember when Andy went through the admissions process, he said he was I remember it was an engineer posing as a salesperson. And so I feel like that's really kind of characterized your journey. So I'm going to stop my share and hand it over to you, Andy, to introduce yourself and tell our guests about your journey.
Yeah, thanks so much. Thanks so much, Nita. It's really great to be here. Excited to share my experience. And Liz, great to see you again. I know it's been a while, but speaking early on in my pre-sales journey, yeah, it's great to see you again. Yeah, and so Nina kind of touched on it. For a long time, so a little bit about me. My name's Andy. I am maybe, I would say, what people would call more mid-career. So definitely was looking at a career change. And I bring that up because I, in college, had studied engineering, and I started out that path and then kind of found my way into tech sales. And I had felt I enjoyed sales. I enjoyed the people aspect of it, interacting with customers, prospects, and helping them solve problems. But I kind of felt that itch to kind of get back to the technical side of things and kind of combine the two. And when I found out about pre-sales as a career path, it just kind of was a light bulb that turned on. But a little bit about me, like Nina said, I was in cohort 11, graduated earlier this year in February, currently in month 3 of my role as an associate SE at Nintex, which time flies. A little bit on Nintex, we do business process automation and optimization software. We have a few products for that. And so my role on a day-to-day basis, there's a lot of variety. And as I'm in week 12 now, and things are really kind of starting to ramp up, No day is the same, which is great, which is exactly what I was looking for. So I could be doing things that range from supporting sellers by doing some demos, some POCs, helping now with RFPs, doing some tech evangelism, both online through webinars and even at some in-person events, doing even some beta testing for and product feedback for the product team, which is really cool. And then really honing my skills on being an expert for a few of our products. So a little bit of background on kind of how I landed here. I was working as an SDR starting from like late 2021, and I was trying to figure out my next career move. And there's a lot of different paths you can take. SDR is sales development rep. For those, I'll try to limit the amount of acronyms I use. But sales development rep is kind of an entry-level role into the tech sales world. And there's a lot of different moves that you can take from that. You can go along the sales route, which is usually go into an account executive role. You can go into marketing, you can go into customer success, even community development. But I hadn't really heard about pre-sales. But I knew that none of those other routes that I mentioned really appealed to me. So I was looking at different paths I could take in like about a year and a half ago. And then I actually just went down a rabbit hole in Reddit and found out about pre-sales. And one of the Redditors mentioned PreSales Collective. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. So I went onto the website, found that there was a Slack channel, there were a few intro courses. And so I did exactly that. I signed up for the Slack, did some tech enablement courses that are on the PreSales Collective website, and everything just kind of clicked. And I was like, yes, I want to learn more about this. I want to learn more about cloud. I want to learn more about APIs. I want to learn more about SQL. And then I just kind of in the Slack channel lurked a little bit, just try to absorb information. There's a lot of good resources in the various channels there. And then in summer last year, I really started being proactive in reaching out to other pre-sales professionals. Just quick intro to myself, really being respectful of their time, trying to be but also clear in what I was asking for, and that was just 15 minutes of their time for an info interview, just to learn more about their story, their journey in pre-sales. And then I also tried to find some, so I had some good conversations there, and just solidified everything that I had been reading up until that point where, and this is what I described this is what I felt throughout, and I used actually going through the interview process, was I feel like pre-sales is the path that allows me to use both the left and the right sides of my brain. And that is, it has the people skills that I didn't want to give up, but it also has the technical skills where I kind of was feeling that thirst to re-up since my my college days. So I had some good conversations through everyone I met in the PSC Slack channel. One thing about pre-sales is that it's a very supportive, kind community. Everyone is really generous with their time. So if that is one route that you want to take to just learn more about the profession, highly recommend doing that. And then I found out about PreSales Academy. I don't know how I missed it when I was initially on the PreSales Collective website, but I found out about that. And so I was like, oh, this is interesting. And it seemed really like a great experience, and like a solid like signal to those, like to hiring managers and companies, that like, I'm serious about this commitment. I want to take this step and be in pre-sales. So I started reaching out to alumni of the PreSales Academy and heard nothing but great things. And so that really kind of solidified my decision, and I applied, spoke with Nina, and then got luckily accepted to cohort 11. And yeah, right from the get-go, PSA was a fantastic experience. I think the thing about PSA is that I felt so supported the entire way. I felt like Nina, Winnie, my coach, my mentor, like, you know, I still keep in touch with my mentor now. I have my, I text with my coach, even outside of like graduating, like they, throughout PSA, and even once you graduate and you go into the interview stage, like Nina was my advisor, my coach, my mentor. They all made themselves like very available to help out, whether it was like a demo that I needed to present during an interview, or I needed to maybe bounce off or refine one of my responses to an interview question. Once you graduate, there's a job seeker playbook that is given to all alumni, which I felt was super invaluable. Like, not to oversimplify it, but just follow that and you'll be you'll be in great shape. I wish it was that simple, but it's an incredible resource. I would say, and to kind of piggyback on what Liz was saying earlier, it was definitely a challenge for me, just being real, during the stage 2 process. So my stage 2 was right in January. So right after New Year's, Christmas, like usually a slower start to the year. But it was a commitment I knew about. I knew I was going to be devoting 3 nights a week to this, and I wanted to. But it was a challenge too, because I think being an SDR, at least for me, was kind of exhausting during the day. And then you want nothing more than to maybe take a break or just like, watch a Netflix show. But I made a commitment. I was like, January is the stage 2, like it's game time, let's go. And I would say it was a challenge, but it was totally worth it, because you get stage 2, you get demo practice in a safe environment, you get feedback, you get a chance to meet your other the members of your cohort in person, which is invaluable. I'm still in touch with some of the people from my cohort, and we'll either check in or commiserate during applying for jobs, or it's just like Nina, Winnie, coach, mentor, like they make themselves available and they're there for support, whether it's actual demo practice or just emotional support, which, trust me, is comes up. But I would say too, like I was also planning for a wedding and a honeymoon, so that threw a nice little just wrinkle into things. But it's definitely totally doable. And as long as you stay disciplined and kind of keep that end goal in sight, you're gonna succeed. I found it really useful. I have a whiteboard right here that I write things down on to keep me focused. So as long, like, just know that it's worth it. Stay disciplined and keep the end goal in mind. I would say PSA, especially in stage 2 and throughout, like I mentioned coach, mentor, my classmates, you get a chance to build a network with other pre-sales vets as well. And I would say definitely use the fact that you're a PreSales Academy student and eventual graduate as leverage to reach out to people. And it shows when you're reaching out to people that you have this level of commitment, that you are taking your career very seriously and you want to step into this the right way. And I think it goes a long way to people when you say, oh, hey, I'm a PreSales Academy graduate or student because it has a great reputation among pre-sales professionals. I would say when it came to the job search, it's not, come graduation, Nina and Liz weren't like, all right, bye. Like they made themselves super available. There was such an overflow of support and resources even after we graduated, and even before the graduation day, the week or two leading up to it was prep for the job search. There's a lot of tools that are really helpful for your job search. I don't know if Nina, y'all still use it, but Hunter was incredibly valuable, like just for tracking applications, because it gets messy a little bit just with stuff everywhere, and I liked it better than my messy Excel sheet. But just one example of all the super valuable tools. Yeah, Nina, my mentor and coach, made themselves available for demo practice and feedback. And then the job seeking office hours that are weekly after you graduate, but are open to all alumni, were great because it's an hour every week, keeps you focused. Job seeking is tough, but having that as a touchstone every week was really great for me personally, because it allowed us to focus on one topic and just focus on getting better. Because in the end, like, you can only focus on what you can control, and that is telling your story in interviews, and maybe refining the message a little bit, or working on your demo practice even more, or working on reaching out to hiring managers. There's a whole slew of things, and so that was really helpful. And then I know I'm getting close to time here, but I would just say, for advice to those who are considering PSA, just to continue what Liz was saying, it's what you put in, that's what you're going to get out. There's a ton of tools, resources, and assistance for you, but at the end of the day, it's you, and you got to take the ownership and accountability for it. But if you do, you will succeed, and you'll eventually get to where you want to be.
Wow, that was so well said, Andy. Like, everyone, a round of applause for Andy, because I just appreciate how honest you were about sharing about your experience, and just all the nuggets of information you brought in were fantastic. I want to be mindful of our time, so I do have a couple more slides for us to go through before we do a quick wrap up. So I will be super quick, making sure we get through this content. But as kind of Andy mentioned, at the end of the day, this is an investment in yourself. You need to be the one who shows up. And one big question I always get from students really is, hey, how much is this investment? How much is tuition? So for our cohorts, upfront tuition is sitting at $4,995. Most students will do that over 2 installments. So half of the payment due before they start the program, and then the second half before they start stage 2. As a gift for all of y'all being present here, or even registered for the recording for this session, we are offering you a $500 off of your upfront tuition as an info workshop discount. Just mention to us in the admissions process, and we'll just check that you're registered for this session. But we also have more flexible payment options. We do have a new provider that works with us called Klein Credit. And so they provide our students the opportunity to do a loan option to pay in part, in whole, at any time during or after the program. Every student has the opportunity to potentially apply for Klein Credit to see if that's a good fit for them. We make that option and application available for students once they've been accepted into the program. So we do have multiple tuition options here. And then a couple last things to keep in mind is we do have another cohort coming up soon. So our next cohort, or our September cohort, will be starting on September 16th. The application deadline is August 23rd. So y'all are in a really good place right now, especially if you're still exploring pre-sales. There's tons of time to learn a bit more before applying. But that next cohort will start in September, and they will dive into their stage 2 sessions in October. So that is the end of my content for today. If you have any questions, please reach out to us. I'll be sending a follow-up email to students with the recording, so do not worry. But that is our content for you today. I know we are over time, but quick questions in the chat. On the quick note of students based in Canada, we have worked with students in Canada before. That job search is a little bit different, especially because we recommend students focus on Canadian-based companies. So it could be a US company that has a base in Canada. I find that to be most helpful, but it's really about kind of what role and kind of what verticals a student is looking into. And then another question in the chat is, how long does it take to land a job after graduating? I'll hand it to Andy. How long was your search process? I know everyone's search process looks very different.
Yeah, it depends, I think, really on your discipline and your strategy. It took me about 3 months though.
Yes. So everyone's process is going to be looking different, especially on what they're focusing on or kind of what verticals or companies are targeting. So thank you for answering that, Andy. For Janae's question, it is for the upfront tuition, it is $4,995 total. So we'll split that into two smaller payments, not two together for $10K. So I love that question. If anyone has additional questions, please reach out. I do need to close the session because we are over time, but thank you all for being present today, and we hope to hear from you very soon. Bye, y'all.